we have a letter from a correspondent who asks, just get this out here, what is the purpose of Linux distros? Can you explain what they are and why you would use a different one? Why are there so many? Excellent question, correspondent. Linux distros. So, it's the deal is kind of there's meant to be a distro for everyone, and because Linux is an open source operating system, invariably there's going to have been lots and lots of people making their own versions of Linux. It's simple as that, really. So that's where the idea of the distro comes from, and I mean, my history isn't amazing when it comes to Linux, so I'm probably going to get a ton of things wrong, but I'll give it a try nonetheless. So, how can I explain it best? Think of Windows, and think of the various editions that Windows comes in. You've got Windows 10, well, I think Windows 7 is probably a better place to start with this, or even Vista. So you've got Vista Starter, you've got Vista Home Basic, you've got Vista Home Premium, you've got Vista Professional, and Enterprise, and Ultimate. So that's 6 editions of Vista. There's probably others as well. But those are the, well, we'll say Windows Server 2008. So those are your 7 important editions of Windows Vista. And you can sort of imagine them kind of like the Linux distro of the Windows world. So you've got different distros for servers, you've got different distros for home users who don't really want much, you've got different distros for home users who do want much, you've got distros for enterprise and professional use, and for hackers, and for people who are on like low spec machines, or people who are on high spec machines, people who want to do video editing, people who want to do graphics. There's something for everyone out there. And a lot of them kind of run off a subset of a small handful of distros. So you've got things like Debian and Arch, and I think OpenSUSE is its own kind of thing. Red Hat is its own thing. And then, for example, from Debian you've got things like Ubuntu and Mint and Pop! OS. And Red Hat, you've got Fedora, CentOS, and various other ones, and then it's a heck of a rabbit hole. But the key thing with the distro is it's what you want out of the operating system. And if you want, say, a very basic system that's going to run on everything, well, something like Crunchbang++ will do the job. If you want something that's going to be a great experience for newcomers, then Linux Mint is a great option. If you want something that's you want to be able to tinker with, and you want to, it's kind of your system, and if it breaks you can fix it, that sort of deal, that's Arch. So on and so forth. That's pretty much the deal with the distro. And one of the big concepts for probably not newcomers, but like Linux users in general, I think everybody has a different take on this, but the idea of distro hopping, and I've done it very recently, because I was on MX Linux, and it didn't really suit my needs exactly well, so I switched over to Debian, and that's been perfect. And you might try a distro, you might try, Puppy Linux, and okay, yeah, this is fine, but it's not quite what I'm after, so you might jump over to Gentoo, and yeah, okay, that's not quite right, so you might jump over to Mandrake. I think it's called Mandrake, Mandriva, something like that. There might even be 2 different systems. And then you might go over to Clear Linux, or NixOS, or whatever, and then eventually you'll land on something that you like. Virtual machines are very, very useful for that, in fact. And yeah, I mean, choosing a distro is kind of A, does it do what you want it to? B, do you trust it to be maintained? Because the advantage of a distro is that anybody can make one. The disadvantage is that anybody can make one. So there's been many, many distros over the years, and some of them are these long-running things that have been spanning for... Debian itself is like nearly 40 years old now. I think it started in 95, 97, or some one of those. And there's even older distros out there. And so you can kind of trust that one to be around and to be maintained because it's got such a huge... it's such a big project. There's so many maintainers about it and so many people who rely on it, Ubuntu included, that it's not really going to go away. It's one of these too big to fail type deals. But then you've got the likes of Crunchbang. I mentioned that before. And Crunchbang was really, really good for 2 versions and then died a death. It was around in 2012, something like that, 2013, and then had 2 versions and then died. The maintainer, the owner, lost interest. It wasn't, and it happens. It happens. You go out, set out, and make a thing, and the thing doesn't. It's not right for you, and it's not something that you want to be putting your time into. And as it happens, Crunchbang has been continued by other distros, but who knows how long they're going to last, and who knows how often they're going to be maintained, and how secure they're going to be as a result. The thing with things like Debian is that because there's so many maintainers, it's kept relatively up to date. But then the likes of Ubuntu, yes, that's the thing. Who knows what's going to happen with that? It's a joke operating system, but I don't know. If they decide, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, then you're going to have to switch distros. So I hope that's given you something of an insight into the idea of the distro. When in doubt, well, I was about to say go with Ubuntu, but yeah, Ubuntu is not great these days. When in doubt, go with Mint, I think is the general consensus. Anyway, clear as mud, huh? Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.